Welcome back, everyone. Let's go ahead and continue with learning more about classes in Python. So far we've learned how to actually create a class and create instances of the class. Continuing on, I want to go ahead and print out the namespace of an instance. Let's see what that means. And ahead, I'm going to tell you that there'll be no mention of the raise amount variable, since it is a class variable and not an instance variable. So if I were to print, and these things are dictionaries basically, emp_6 dot _dict . You can see that for employee 6, which was basically Mickey Mouse when we created it, we can see the first name, last name, pay, and email address. That's all we see. We do not see the pay raise variable, because that's a class variable, is not an instance variable. Let's create a temporary employee. I'm going to create a temp and call employee, and let's create Bernard Mouse with $100,000 salary. Let's go ahead and print tempemp dot full name, and I'm using the tab key, tempemp dot pay. So that all shows up. I am going to do a temp emp dot apply raise, and if you take a look, that apply raise variable, because we had actually done a change up above, we did, where was that? I did an employee dot raise amount, there it is, that I changed it to 7%. That was a class variable. You notice that this is going to go up to, basically, it should go up by 7%. So it should be 107,000, and it is. Now let's go ahead and print the class namespace. So we printed the namespace for an instance, and please notice that the class variable shows up. So if I were to print employee, which is my class, dot _dict . You see that you have the init function as expected, and if you take a look, you see that there is the raise amount here somewhere. It should be here. There it is. There's a raise amount right there, as you can see. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the class variable for an instance. So let's change the class variable for an instance. So emp6, let's actually take a look at emp6, print emp6, in case we've forgotten who this person was. That's Mickey Mouse. I'm going to take emp6 dot raise amount, and notice that this is the class variable. I'm not calling apply raise, which is the method. I'm going to change the class variable for this particular instance to, let's say, 10%. And I'm going to print employee dot raise amount. Notice that's still 7%, but if I print emp6 dot raise amount, notice that one is actually 10%. Okay? So a few notes over here. Remember that each instance look inside itself to see if an attribute exists. So that's what it does first and foremost. If not, so as in this case with emp6, it looks inside itself to see if an attribute exists, and it doesn't. The attributes were first, last, pay, and email. If it doesn't exist within itself, then it checks the parent. So in this case, it actually goes up to the class itself and checks the parent, and so on, because this stuff can be done in multiple layers. In this case, since, as I mentioned, we have emp6 use raise amount, when we print out its namespace, the attribute shows up, even though it's an instance of employee. This is because since it was changed for it specifically. Let's actually see that. So print emp6. Remember, we did it for that temporary employee and nothing, for actually emp5, I think, and nothing showed up. Now, if you take a look over here, the raise amount is shown up because we specifically made a change for emp6. Okay? Let's go ahead and change the employee dot raise amount, I can spell, to 20%. Let's do a shift enter. Okay. Let's go ahead and print emp6 dot double underscore dict double underscore. Notice for Mickey, the amount remains at 1.1 because we specifically changed it for Mickey. That's very important to understand, that we have specifically reached in and made a change for Mickey, so making a change at the class level doesn't impact Mickey whatsoever. If I were to actually print emp6's pay to see what Mickey is earning, $77,896, let's actually apply, call the apply raise to Mickey, and then print emp6.pay, and you can see that this thing went up by actually 10%, not by the expected 20%, because we specifically made the change for Mickey earlier. There's good stuff to know. We could, of course, delete stuff if we wanted to. So just because we've made a change doesn't mean that this is permanent. I can say delete emp6 dot raise amount. Let's actually do that, and let's go ahead and print, because you can see it is a dictionary. I can print emp6 dot double underscore dict double underscore, and you can see that pay amount has been lifted. I know what Mickey is earning right now, so if I were to give Mickey another raise, it's no longer going to be that 10% because I made the raise amount, which is a class variable, to 20%, and in our class definition, we are giving the raise based on the raise amount when apply raise is applied. If I were to take emp6 and apply raise, this time it should actually be 20%. Let's actually verify that. So print 10% of this is about 8,500. So we're looking at about $17,000 increase, 102,000 thereabouts. Let's go ahead and print emp6 dot pay and see what we got. 102,822. All right, so let's continue with adding another or making another modification to the class definition for employee and see how we can actually keep track of things. Also, this idea of having to do a manual delete here, let's actually use one of the built-in functions of Python in the class constructor. So I'm going to go over here and what was the last one that I did? Copy this right here that has everything, and I'm going to come down and paste that. I'm going to make some changes. So the raise amount is 1.04. That's fine. It's a class variable. I'm going to add another variable, a class level variable, number of employees. And this is equal to 0 to begin with. And this is number of employees. All right, everything here remains pretty much the same. I'm going to come down here inside the init constructor and put in employee.num of emps to be plus equal 1. Let's understand what's going on over here. Every time this class is called to create a new employee, that new employee will have the number of employees will be increased by 1 because this init is called. I'm doing this as a class variable, so it basically increases that class variable for us by 1. So that's very important to understand. Notice I'm not saying self. Self refers to an object, to the object itself that has been instantiated. I'm doing this for the class itself. So it's very important to understand what we're doing over here. Okay, we don't want the total number of employees to be different for every instance, which is why we have to do that. Now, what if I want to remove an employee? Well, I can call the double underscore del double underscore and pass to itself. And this is going to, if an employee has been deleted, I can call on employee.num of emps and do minus equals 1. So when an employee has been deleted, the employee is removed. With that in mind, let's go ahead and execute this right here, and let's go ahead and create some employees. So I'm going to create an emp7, and this is going to be the employee constructor, this latest one now. Bianca Mouse, and she gets 70,000. And I'm going to have emp8, the employee Bernard. I think Bernard was a temporary employee earlier, so we're going to make it more permanent now. Mouse, 70,000. I just created 2 employees. Let's go ahead and print the employee classes num of emps. It should be 2. Yes, it is. We had 2 employees added. If I were to call delete, if I were to use the delete option to delete, let's say employee 7, and then print employee dot num of emps, it should have gone down to 1, and for some reason it did not. So I'm not quite sure what happened right here. Did the delete not take effect? Let me do, oops, I got, well, it did take effect because it says it didn't work, but let me try doing this again. For some reason this did not take effect, and we need to troubleshoot this and see why that is the case. Okay, well, let's go ahead and actually restart the kernel. It might have been because I don't see any problems with the code. Let's restart it and let's try this again. And I'm going to recreate all of these variables. So far so good. Deleting employee 7, and it, for some reason, it worked now. So we can see that in fact this employee, deleting an employee actually impacts that class variable, which is defined at the class level. And again, we don't want to have different numbers for instances over here. This is supposed to be for class variable, which is why we declared it like this. We don't want to have, let me actually make a note over here. So add 1 each time a new employee is added. And notice the employee class, since we do not want the total, number of employees to be different for every instance. So you can see how you can use various types of variables, instance variable versus class variable, to work with depending on the situation that you're into. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the recording right here so it doesn't get too long, and we're gonna continue with working with classes in the next several videos. Thank you for being a great audience, and please feel free to share this with loved ones and friends if you're enjoying these. See you in the next video.